So town website, everybody watches these.
Does that bother you, all the trucks going by your place?
Or
Did you send one out, Richard?
No, sorry. You're good. Just pass
oh,
it.
okay. Get it over to them.
I can email it to you if you want.
Yeah, we got one right here.
Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. It is 4:39. And the first discussion here is a discussion action on the September 26th meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve them
I'll move the minutes. As written.
as written? There's a motion to approve it. I'll second. Ruth seconds it. All in favor of accepting the minutes as written? Noted that I wasn't here, but. All right, so it passes to approve the minutes from the September 26th meeting as written. Second item on the agenda is a discussion action on rate adjustment, which there is a packet in here of the different scenarios. Ruth stated she was a little confused by them, so would
Yeah.
you like to
Yep,
go over?
sure. So we didn't have all the data at the last meeting. We just look at average usage, total units billed, things like that to try to forecast out how we would bridge the gap rather than just saying, okay, well, we think we're off by this much or that much. So the total consumption accounts bill was 1522 last year. So the 1522 seems high. That's because it's all multiplied out. You get billed 4 times a year. So you necessarily divide that by 4. Same with the flat rate accounts. 72 flat rate bills went out last year. So when we're figuring out all of that, that's what we needed to look at with the billing increments. Your consumption bill, we have just over 2 million units billed last year. So those are the numbers that we use when we're trying to forecast out what an increase would look like in terms of bridging that gap, the operation gap. The estimated deficit for this year was about $12,000 with the target that we would be able to put another $12,000 into reserve. Whether that happens all at once or phased, that's the pleasure of the board. Really what we're looking at is trying to get to the $24,000 increase in revenues generated from use charges. So one of the ideas at the last meeting, moving to page 2, was the concept that our fixed operating costs be assigned to the stub fee and anything that's variable be charged to consumption. That gives you, if you have 0 consumption, that we ideally don't have any variable costs, we're going to be still able to operate. From a business perspective, that's really, where you want to be. If we were to do that and just refigure the existing model as it is without a rate increase, slide 1 on page 2 shows you that your stub fee would actually be $118 if we were assigning fixed costs to the stub and variable costs to consumption. I didn't mess with the flat rate just because I figured that was kind of even and it was a small part of it, so I left it at its current rate. Your consumption is then what goes down on your per unit charge to 3.1 cents from 8.1. That is existing scenario if you shifted all of your costs appropriately under that bucket. If we were to look at the revenue shift, hitting our target revenue under that shift, your stub rate goes to 129, your consumption goes to 3.4 cents. So it's in effect implementing just about a 10% increase across the board in rates. If we go to the $24,000, covering the 12 in operation and 12 in reserve, 9 to 10% is what we're looking at total net increase in rates. If we were to implement that model, it's all manageable. You're going to raise the same amount of money, regardless of your structure. you can see how it hits accounts on slide 2, page 2, where we've got school in session. They're our biggest user. When school is in session, it's 25,000 units. Their current charge based on that would be a little over 2,000. If we were to restructure to the fixed cost being to the stub and variable to consumption, that would reduce their bill. It's going to reduce every large user. So their $2,000 bill now turns into about 900. And then you can see New Balance, they have 2 bills here. They're billed in the same cycle. So I mean, technically they would jointly be our largest customer, but it's billed separately. You've got the car wash, the school in the off season, coffee shop, the Ames residents, to give you a perspective, so you folks kind of know where your usage is. Ruth, your usage is on there. You can see you use quite a bit less than John. Your break even. So for folks to see no change in their bill based upon the model, you would be a user of 1,300 units. The town office is where you start to see the disproportionate impact, where we only use 300 units. So our current bill is $116 on average. That goes to 142. And your big bump is like Sophie May, where there's no current usage and no measurable usage. It's 51.25 on a stub charge right now, and that bill would go to 118.16. So it's really relief for your larger customers, and it's going to shift that down to smaller users if you wholly go in that direction.
So, right, it's people of the smaller usage that is going to be seeing the largest increase.
Yeah, it's going to be yeah.
And a lot of the people on smaller usage would probably be the elderly or those kind of things.
Right.
So what's our average bill? Is the average bill above the 159, or is the average bill? If we took all 1522,
Yeah.
divided it by 1522, or took the total, you know what I mean?
So I don't have a way of calculating the median efficiently.
Okay.
Which is the way to take out your outliers, my
Right.
Sophie May library and my school. There's no efficient way for me to be able to do that. The most efficient method that I had was using the information that all of our associates generated for us when we did our last rate review. They were the ones that did the facility upgrade, and that's when we adjusted the flat rate. So arguably the flat rate, that 146, is the average use. The median.
So 146 is the average-ish.
Ish, right. And not average, median.
Median, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the mode.
Correct, not the median.
Going back to high
The
school
median,
math there.
you take your accounts and you say, okay, you get 200 units, 200 units, 200 units, but then you've got a 25,000 unit town line. Get rid of that and try to get
Right.
narrow it in. It's not easy, it's not precise, it's try to be perspective. So then the next page, top of page 3, shows you that if we were to implement that wholehearted fixed variable cost assignment, somebody like the school would see, a user like the school would see a 53% decrease in their quarterly bill. If we keep the same model, which is we've just been implementing, I think we did a 10, 10, 7 back in 18, 19, and 20. And we just go across the board, implement that 10% increase or whatnot. This is then how you look. In order to cover the gap, it's about 4.7%, and to hit your target revenue, it's 9.45. So you play that out, give slight roundings, and that's going to get you to the 278,608, and our target revenue was 278. So that's cutting it right close. But that under the way that rates have traditionally been managed, whether it's right or wrong, it would be the blanket across the board increase. And so that's why that, I'll say, closer aligned with what we would be used to seeing. And then you can see on the next page, top of page 4, where there is going to be some variation because of the usage, but it's a 9.5 to 10% increase for everybody across the board. Right. So then you say, okay, we'll split the difference. Maybe we need to start pivoting towards that stub fee, absorbing the fixed cost and variable going to the usage. So for numbers' sake, I said, okay, well, halfway there, instead of putting our stub to 129, let's just say it goes to 90, meet us in the middle. And then it's going to put your consumption rate at 6.4 and your flat rate at that 159.50. And you can see on the final page 5 that your ballpark is gonna be about 2,500 units, which is about what John uses on average. That's your break even. Your school sees an increase.
Decrease.
Sorry, a decrease, yeah, it's, my math is wrong, of -386, -18%, and then again, your smaller accounts are absorbing that. That's the nature of that shift. If you're gonna look at that, if we use 0, can we still pay our bills? You get down to a philosophical debate at that. So, I mean, that's your pleasure. Vice Chair asked me at the last meeting, make my recommendation. Your mind says go to the appropriate way of allocating these funds, that, you know, run it like a business. If we go to 0, then this is great, it operates. The issue is that we're in terrible economic times and it's only gonna get worse. And how do we apply that most equitably? And when you look at the users, not to defend corporate or offend corporate, we're giving tax cuts to our largest users that tend to be commercial. And so from the moral perspective, I think you're inclined to stay the course and do a blanket across the board increase. But that's all you apply. As a business person, you say adjust it and go when you have to pay your fair share. But from a current economic perspective, it's treated the way we've always treated it, whether it's right or wrong.
My perspective is that most people are struggling just to survive. That's what I see out there.
So what would be your thoughts on these scenarios? Do you like one more than the other, or no? Like it's
No.
not the right word. I'll take that word out.
No, to dump it on, a couple of the lands are gonna dump it on the little guy that's struggling even worse than the big guy.
So if I understand, would you support keeping it as it is and just doing a flat raise?
Stuff increase, you're still talking about people. My wife deals with that kind of stuff and she says, I don't know where I'm gonna come up with the money for it. And our income is probably twice or 3 times what a lot of these elderly are making. Okay.
Ruth, what are your thoughts?
My question is there alternative ways to actually make more money for the sewer department?
Alternative ways?
Alternative, like what?
Take all the PFAS water, take all the effluent coming from waste management.
Right, which voids all of our warranty on equipment.
I'm just saying, they're paying a lot of money for, and there's no permitting requirements for PFAS monitoring at this point. Slam it right into the river. That's what KCD's doing. I shouldn't say that. Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm done.
Ruth?
I kind of like the fixed variable, but
The fixed variable one?
yeah,
Another option that Richard didn't present here that we could do, and we get darn close to where we wanted to, is keep the stub fee where it was and increase the variable fee up 1 cent. You're doing the same thing, and you're just making the corporate, the bigger users, right, school, MSAD 54.
Was that part of it in the same model?
You know who pays for that though?
yes,
We
we
do.
do, yeah,
We charge the school more.
Yeah.
We pay more for it. Sure. Right, our town taxes, right? That would give us $20,414 more annually, if your units are right. If we increase it by 1 cent per unit, cubic foot.
But on somebody like me, that's another 20 some odd dollars every quarter.
I use the same amount of water you do, John.
2,500.
2,500, I think I used more than that, I think I'm like 35.
To do what?
Why not straight over?
I dumped over 20,000 gallons just in my dog kennel this summer.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I have a $450 soil.
Yeah, so if you put consumption to 9.4 cents, it's 280,000.
200 and how much? 80?
280. Your target's 278.
Okay,
Right, so we're darn close.
Yeah, 9394 is where you need to be.
Yeah, so going up 1 cent or 0.9 cents. And that would be, you know, the lesser users keeping the stub fee the same of 51.25.
so I can say personally, on these scenarios, I would be a fan of splitting the difference because I don't think it should be run as a business. I think it's the people that we're here for. And I don't think that all the big businesses in town, while we like them in town and we appreciate what they bring, I don't feel that they should get the kind of break that the first models are looking at, where it's the small people that are, you know, the 1 and 2 person households that are picking up the cost.
that are on social
So-
security.
Based on that, I would not be supportive of the first scenario here that we're looking at. I would lead more towards splitting the difference, because especially in the winter time, a lot of people go south, the consumption goes down. We still need to bring in money to cover the expenses and cover the pay of the people that are working there. But that's just my, based on these models that we're looking at. Because 51.25, I gotta tell you that that's on for a stub fee. That's on the lower end of what the state has. You can see the average state stub fees, consumption rates, they're all available. I believe it's on the Maine Rural Water website. They do like every 2 years, put together analysis of across the state. So you can kind of see where your district or your town falls in the averages. And like in Madison, it's 72.50 a unit charge quarterly. Just to give you a
How many
comparison,
users is there in Madison
there's right around just over 1,200,
compared to 300 in Norridgewock?
about 400 in Norridgewock, yeah. But we have a larger infrastructure that has to get maintained as well, so it's a little smaller system down here. You know, something we have to, even if we don't go over the additional 12, so that there's more money in like a, what were we calling it? The reserves. I think we should at least do our due diligence and come up with some way balance a year for the missing 12,000 in the budget. That's just my opinion. That's like the bare minimum that we should do.
We break out residential versus non-residential connections. Something we could do too. Just. Then we're getting way more administrative fees, you know, more time, more effort. Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, in an ideal world, you know, your fixed cost, cover your fixed expenses. Your variable costs cover your variable expenses. I don't think that makes sense in this scenario. You know, I wanted to see where it would take us. You know what I mean? And I think that's unrealistic to have someone that uses zero water pay $150 stub fee,
Right.
146. So I think, you know, in an ideal world, it's kind of where I want to look at that, see where we were at. But I think we can take them off the table. I just think that's unrealistic. But I do feel passionately that we should start making a reserve.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Yeah.
costs are only going up. I think we can put whatever budget we want now. I think that there's value in having a reserve account
Oh, there's
for
definitely.
this. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So you know, there's. I think are we all in agreement that there needs to be a rate increase?
Yeah,
Do you want a motion on that? And then just decide which one it is?
No,
You want a number?
it should be moved all together.
Okay.
But I think that might have consensus, but I don't give unanimity.
I agree. So, yeah. I mean, I guess where do we increase? Do we want to do across the board? You know, that was kind of manager's suggestion, just increase it across the board. You know, he lives this every day. There's something to be said for that.
Yes, it's nice to be able to explain it, that everybody's being treated the same.
Sure.
The difficult thing is it's always difficult to explain the rate increase anyway. But to say that in these times, we're gonna change the way that we're doing it, I think it would be discouraging to a lot of folks.
Well, we could also,
You could just kick the consumption rate up.
right, that's what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
saying you save more, you
Right.
use less water, you save more. That's the fair way, you know, so if someone's like, man, I hate to say that, like, you know, I can't wash my clothes, you know, I'm gonna wear my shirt twice versus washing it,
Right.
you know, you can do that, or we could do, yeah. I don't know, I think consumption rate going up versus where split difference. I think that's a tough one too, to say, hey, you know, your stuff is going up to that much if you don't use any water. And no matter what you do, you can't say that.
You can,
Versus if you go just the consumption goes up, you can say.
right,
save some water.
It's definitely a defendable.
Right, or we can say, you know, the stub fee is going up to X, and then the consumption going up, you know what I mean? Increase the stub fee a little bit, it sounds like you're doing it more almost, within reason. Maybe just to cover that, I don't know, I don't have a good answer. Cause 51.25 hurts me. The 25, just make it a number, make it 51 or 52.
just increase it.
So it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just-
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm
Sorry,
saying?
that- oh, I gotta ask.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, a simple thing, yeah.
my OCD.
Okay, so you're looking to float a motion,
Do you want me to
like
make
progressively talk it out here. What number do you want to
Oh,
send that stub? 52?
What if we went to 55?
I was thinking the same thing, I was thinking 55 as well.
Yeah.
It's a little bit.
It will add up
And then-
across,
and then
it's not
yeah.
huge.
What do we need to get, if that goes to 55, that would put our consumption at like 87 to get that we want, to get 80, right? 80.
So say you put flat rate to 150.
What would that do? We were 150.
With your flat rate,
So you went up on the.
you only have a handful of flat rate.
Right. So I was
So,
gonna just discount them, and say that it doesn't really make that much, not discount, but like say like.
which it kind of does. If you increase the flat rate to 150, you can put a consumption rate of 9 cents. And the forecast would be that you generate that 278, 237.
But what if we put the stub fee at 55?
That's included in that.
Okay.
You adjust the stub fee to 55, adjust the flat rate up $3.60 to 150,
Mhm.
and the consumption is 9 cents.
Seems fairly reasonable.
It's not a huge jump on all the numbers, right?
Right,
Right, so no one's getting hit too super hard,
Yeah,
and that covers $4,000 worth of it.
It's gonna cover estimated by 200 units, $200,
Okay, so yeah.
and you get your reserve, yeah.
So that's-
and the reserve is included in that, and covered 12,000, we're short. Would you like to make a motion on that?
Yeah, so I move, because it's an affirmative action. Not affirmative action, it's affirmative, to increase the stub to $55, the flat rate to 155. 150 even, and the consumption charge will be 9 cents per cubic foot.
I'll second that.
Okay. So there's been a motion. I'll repeat it, to raise the stub to 55, the flat rate to 150, and the consumption would go up to 9 cents per cubic foot to cover the $12,000 we're short and create an additional $12,000 reserve for things that come up in emergencies. There's been,
Can we have an effective date in the motion?
would you like it to start?
When is the easiest for billing? February,
February, November. Problem is,
February
who
1,
wants to communicate it?
23.
Yeah, that gives time to send out the notices that
It's
we
not gonna
need
hit everyone right
to.
now. February
Yeah.
1, effective February 1, 23.
Okay,
We can just include notices and regular bills.
okay, so that was his motion. You, Ruth seconded the motion.
Yes.
All in favor?
Is there any discussion?
Is there any discussion?
I'm not in favor of any increase, but
Yeah.
No.
because I see people struggling.
Yeah, I think that we do, I think everyone's, struggling is sympathetic to their plight, but I think that we need to continue to operate the sewer plant. I mean, it's a critical function to, protect the environment and to protect, everyone. I mean, the drinking water and
We
everything.
have to maintain things.
Right, you can't just let it go off. I mean,
Yeah,
if we don't increase it now, you get ahead of it, we're gonna have another 150% increase in 2 years, 3 years, and that would be more devastating.
Yeah, sure, when I hit like that. So all in favor of doing this rate increase to go in effect on February 1st of next year? You don't have to stick on the camera.
I
All opposed? So the
deal with a
motion
lot of
passes.
homeless people and
Yeah. The motion passes. Is there any other business? to discuss? Anything you want to enlighten us with? No? Nope, he's good.
We will get something on the calendar for the first of the year. We can do that by poll or whatnot,
Okay,
because my calendar gets busy in January.
right.
But if we could tentatively put something on, I think the last Monday of the month
In January.
is typically worked. Actually, let's go to 23rd if we could, tentatively. Yeah, 123, 23,
4:30.
yeah, 4:30, does that work?
yep.
That's too far out.
Yes.
Okay. But at least we can get it on the books
Yeah.
quarterly.
Sure.
And if we need to adjust it, we can adjust it, but that'll get you end of year finances and whatnot. And it'll be just before rate increase will take effect.
Thank you for drawing up all this.
Yeah, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
it's those scenarios so we can see how they would hit everybody in town. So if there's no other business on anybody's, then we'll adjourn the meeting,
Short, sweet, and done.
right? It's 5:06.
Wow, that was pretty.